Bill and Ted is celebrating its 35th anniversary. And while it may not have been around for all 35 years of this franchise, this is one of my favorite franchises of all time. So today, I am going to rank all 3 of the Bill and Ted movies from bogus to excellent. Before I get started though, be sure to join me down in the comment section with your most excellent rankings, because I'm sure your rankings are not going to be the same as my ranking, and I would love to see yours. With all that out of the way, let's kick this off with number 3. In last place, I am going with Bill and Ted Face the Music. Now this is actually a very special movie to me because this is the very first movie where I followed all of the updates from when they first started talking about it until when the movie eventually finally came out. Alex Winter, Keanu Reeves, and even the writer Ed Solomon started talking about a third entry into the franchise all the way back to like 2012.
I feel badly that we've talked so many times about Bill and Ted, but it's only out of love, you know that.
I know.
Do you feel badly that we and you've talked about this so much because it's now become something where
hopefully one day the moment will arrive, right, where you've seen the movie and you're like, Reeves, it was worth the wait.
And with each and every update, I got more and more excited, but as the years went on, I also got more and more discouraged until 2018 when Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves stood outside the Hollywood Bowl and announced that Bill and Ted Face the Music was indeed coming summer of 2020.
Bill and Ted 3
Face the Music.
If only they knew what that summer was going to bring. And was Bill and Ted Face the Music worth the wait? What I can say about this movie is where it succeeds, it really succeeds for me. I love seeing Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter back in these roles. They still bring the optimistic, youthful spirits of Bill and Ted while also being able to show how Bill and Ted have aged in their 50s. And it's a rare case for a comedy movie so many years removed from its predecessor to not just have its characters continue to be stuck in the same place we left off with them 20, 30 years ago. Dumber 2. Excuse me. But Bill and Ted is able to strike this balance perfectly of still making these feel like the same characters we know and love, but also showing how their lives have progressed since we last saw them. And at the same time, this movie is pretty funny. Most of the jokes land more often than they fall flat for me. And the movie is also pretty brilliant with how it incorporates both elements from Excellent Adventure and Bogus Journey into this film by having the daughters take on the time travel B plot and bringing back William Sadler as Death. It helps to unite this trilogy as a whole perfectly. With all that said though, there are some elements of the story that do feel like the weakest of the entire franchise and feel like the writers really wrote themselves into a corner they weren't sure how to get out of. There's a weird side plot going on with Bill and Ted's wives being visited by their future selves to show them their life with Bill and Ted. It doesn't really feel like it goes anywhere. In fact, it feels like the movie forgets about it more often than they go back to check in on it. And the ending of this movie has always felt so abrupt and pretty dissatisfying to me because this movie is all about Bill and Ted. They're in their 50s. They haven't written the greatest song in the world yet that's going to unite all of the planet and galaxy and save the universe. So the future is coming to them and telling them if they don't do it now, the whole world is going to end. And the way they get around that by having this like rock band performance on a highway that the movie just kind of then goes, and the end. Even when I first watched the movie, that really did not work for me, and it just kind of felt like a lazy cop-out ending. But even with all that said, I still find this movie quite enjoyable. I still watch it from time to time, but I will admit that of the entire trilogy, I find it the weakest, so for that reason, it's coming in at the bogus last spot. Our runner-up is Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Now, this is a fun, harmless, family-friendly feeling kind of movie compared to where this franchise will end up going later on in its sequels. But with that, this movie brings a lot of charm. Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves are so endearing as the airheads Bill and Ted. The minute they are introduced onto the screen, these guys are instantly likable. The premise about these high schoolers who will go on to save the galaxy with their music, but in order for that to happen, they must pass history class is absurd. And the movie knows it, and the movie plays into all of its absurdity, and it knows the only job it has is to make you laugh and have fun with this adventure. And it totally accomplishes its mission with that. I have always found that the pace on this movie moves at such a brisk speed. The time periods that Bill and Ted visit are actually pretty well done, and the production and set dressing does a lot to immerse you into their environments, which is pretty impressive considering the movie's budget at the time was quite low. With that, all of the actors who play these historical figures bring such brilliant comedic performances with them, while also letting you buy into the characters that they are supposed to be playing. It never just feels like cosplay to me, it feels very authentic, and they're all able to match the heightened energy of Bill and Ted as well. Now, if I did have gripes with this movie, it would be that I wish we got to go to more time periods. We only get to go to a couple with Bill and Ted before they montage through the rest and get these characters to present-day Sam Demas, which there's some fun and hilarious gags that go along with these characters in present day, but I just feel like there is still some comedy to be found in the time travel gag, and I feel like the time travel adventure gets cut just a bit too short. I've also always felt that the late great George Carlin does very well with the role of Rufus, being the mentor to Bill and Ted as they go on their time travel adventure, but you've got George Carlin in here, and George Carlin in this movie, he doesn't have the funniest material to work with, and that's always just a little bit disappointing to me to watch because George Carlin is such a funny comedian, and he just doesn't get that many comedic moments in this movie. It kind of feels like a waste of him. But even with all that said, where this movie needed to succeed, it succeeded. It gives you some generally hilarious historical jokes, some great time travel gags, and introduces some of the most endearing characters ever to be introduced to cinema, with Bill S. Preston Esquire and Ted Theodore Logan. It is an excellent revisit every time I go back to watch this movie. But coming in at first place for me is Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Now, this might be a little bit of a hot take within the Bill and Ted fandom because I know that this movie is kind of mixed amongst Bill and Ted fans, and I also can't deny that nostalgia does play a big factor into why this is my number one spot, because this is the first Bill and Ted movie that I ever saw. It was on TV one night. I was probably around 11 or 12 years old. My dad got really excited about it. He wanted to show me it. He put it on, and it blew my imagination wide open, and I've loved it ever since. And even having now gone to the rest of this franchise, seeing what it has to offer, this movie is still the standout of the franchise to me. Because Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey does everything in its power to avoid being a copy-paste of the original. In a world where comedy sequels tend to tread old water and rehash elements of the original that audiences tended to respond to, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey comes along and says, screw the audience, we're gonna do what we want to do. I respect it so much for that. It abandons the time travel being the center of its story and instead replaces that with death, hell, heaven, and Martians. Evil robot versions of Bill and Ted are sent back to kill Bill and Ted and ruin their chances of ever becoming heroes through their musical phenomenon, and Bill and Ted must travel through the afterlife to try and get back in time to save their beloved princesses as well as their future. This movie is absolutely bonkers and insane with its premise, and I love it for that. It trades out this family-friendly type feeling of a movie and goes for more of a teenage stoner movie that you'll find late night on TV. The jokes in here I think are funnier than a lot in the first movie, but they're also a lot darker, going with seances and death and dealing with more dire situations. But at the core of this movie and what makes this movie work so well with its humor and just its tone is that they keep what needs to be kept the same, and that is Bill and Ted. They put these joyous, optimistic characters in a situation as horrifying as dying and have them react to it as only Bill and Ted could react to it, and it is hilarious to me.
Hey, you want to play 20 questions? Okay, I got one. Are you a mineral? Yeah. Are you a tank? Whoa, yeah! Good one!
On top of all this, you have a fantastic addition to the cast with William Sadler playing Death, as well as Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter playing double as the evil robot Bill and Ted's. All of it comes together to create this weird, fantastical experience that I just love revisiting. Now, during filming, production did run out of money near the end of the movie, so they weren't able to do all the ideas that they wanted to finish the movie with.
When they're on their way to the Battle of the Bands after the robots have been built, they get confronted in the middle of the street by the hell visions. So the Easter Bunny, Granny, and Colonel Oates show back up. And there's like this big car chase, but they're more heightened and exaggerated versions. Like the Easter Bunny is now like 8 feet tall and has giant like fangs, and they shot some of it. And then they were just like, what is this?
And in that way, you can feel in the movie that this ending feels a little bit rushed and pretty anticlimactic. But aside from that, everything up until that point, honestly, for me, works in spades. When I'm in the mood to watch myself some Bill and Ted, this is the Bill and Ted movie that I always gravitate towards the most. And for that reason, this journey is anything but bogus, and it comes in at number 1. And with that, guys, that is my ranking of all the Bill and Ted movies. Be sure to leave your excellent rankings down in the comment section below. And if you're new here and you haven't heard, we have a goal on this channel. We want to hit 4,000 subscribers before the end of the year. If you like talking about Bill and Ted, movies in general, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, all that kind of stuff, we talk about movies on this channel all the time. You're definitely in the right spot for that. Consider hitting that subscribe button before you make your way out. As always, guys, thank you so much for hearing me out. Be excellent to each other. And party on, dudes.